How is it going, everybody? It is Sean, or the Armchair Coach, and welcome back to Gillingham FC. And I am really excited to announce that I think this is the last time we will only be doing half of a season in an episode. I've realized over 3 videos of making this kind of video that they average about half an hour an episode if I do half of the season, whereas if I do a full season, I think we'll end up around that 1 hour mark that we like our episodes to be around. That is the new announcement there that you guys can get excited about. The other thing I have learned in my time off screen playing this game for fun is I have been doing development in the worst way possible, I think. Because if I take a look here at the squad management screen or the team management, you can see here in the tactics what the recommended play style for your positions are. As you can see, our strikers should be in advanced forwards, our attacking midders should be half wingers, so on and so forth down the list. And up until now, we had kind of been keeping guys in that balanced or dynamic development plan, which is fine. However, I think for the purposes of developing guys to be as effective as possible within the tactic that we want to play, we want to make sure that we have their development plans set up so that they are really gearing themselves in that direction. And then once they've reached their maximum potential there, we can then look to maybe diversify their skills, right? But for now, we want to really dial in the development plans for our squad, right? And we also have done the same for our youth squad here. There are a few interesting names still here in our youth squad. I'm really interested to see what Shuto Saito ends up becoming here, as he is 17 years old and on the border of being good enough for us to bring up and maybe loan out for a season. But here at this point in the January transfer window, if we are making a loan offer, it's going to end up being a short term. So they're only going to be there for 6 months. We have a matchup today against Swindon Town. I've got beef with you, Swindon Town. However, first things first is we do have a youth tournament to go ahead and get through. So I'm going to play that, and then we will start going through the second half of the season here. As, oh boy, I think I just read a bad email. As, yeah, Travis Akamea will get recalled by Watford. But to be fair, I don't know what we would have done differently in this situation. As you can see, we've got a talented enough backline. I mean, obviously, we're talking about low 60s overall players being talented. However, for our purposes, this is enough talent to not play Akamea any. However, coming in here to our next matchup, before we end up hopping into the youth tournament, I can see that our lineup's exhausted. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust everything so we've got a fresh lineup out there for our matchup, and then we will play the youth tournament. All right, so we are here for our matchup against Swindon Town FC, and lineup's still not necessarily looking fresh. However, they are much more fresh than we were looking before, as we are going to fall short here against Swindon Town. So we know how things go here. We know that if we don't start finding success sooner than later, we could absolutely be talking about getting fired here, as, once again, we're getting warned about job offers, which makes me get nervous. We'll see. All right, well, we have moved on to our next matchup here against Notts County. Are we going to have any more luck today? As we will see. No, we are going to lose again. Oh, boy. I really don't want to get fired in a second straight attempt at starting from the bottom and going to the top. However, you are not complaining about not getting games when I just put you on the bench to get your breath, brother. You were exhausted. You were in the yellow. Did you want me to throw you out there so you could play 30 minutes and then tell me you needed a sub off? Because I guarantee you he's going to complain if I leave him in, but whatever. You know, what are we going to do? All right, so a couple of names have come up here in the free agency list that I'm interested in. Jonathan Amelia. I feel like we might have talked about him last episode, but thinking about the depth we have and what we really need in order to keep ourselves competitive, I think he's a great candidate to join our squad. And then Felix Lorenzo here is my other option. He's an 18-year-old. He's a 68 overall. He's not going to get too much better than that. However, once again, for our purposes, that will do. So we're going to try to make offers for both of these guys here. Well, unfortunately, I have forgotten that we do not have that much of a budget right now. It would appear that our budget right now is, $62,000. That's not enough to even get us a bus ticket, it feels like right now. So unless we start selling off some of the players on our roster, we're really not going to have that money or that much money to play with. So the question becomes is, do we start, disassembling the roster a teeny bit? Start trying to sell off some of these guys, like maybe Bradley Dack here. Maybe we could get rid of Armani Little. Maybe we just transfer out some of these old and undevelopable guys. I mean, obviously we can't get rid of Johnny Smith because he's loaned in. But some of these guys, we could make an offer to just move them off of the team and allow ourselves the opportunity to get some of that money back to use on other players. Question becomes, who do we really want to use this kind of plan for? I think Jake Turner is someone that we're okay selling away. And then other than that, our depth is incredibly not depthy right now. I think the only other player that I could maybe convince myself that we could get rid of is an Armani Little. So maybe we add him because we do have talent that we can either recall from loan. I mean, talent being 50s overall. We do have players that we can recall if we need more depth. However, we also have players probably in our academy that are going to be good enough to play for us sooner than later. I mean, we know Shudo Saito here is somewhere between a 69 to an 89 overall. We're still kind of hoping to wait and see what kind of development he has, but we don't have any midfielders really that we can have come in and step up. It looks like Olivier Barreau is going to be leaving us as he is not going to end up developing that well. However, everybody else here still looking pretty good, especially Edward Johnson, an 82 to an 88 overall potential right now. So we did receive an offer here for Armani Little. And my goal with this is to squeeze out just about as much value out of him as possible because every penny of this transfer is going to matter. So I think we start here with a little bit of an okay. Well, 400K is apparently way too much. I guess it makes sense. He's not that great, so I wouldn't want to overspend on a guy like that either. Yeah, get out of here, Mr. Cumbender. Every time I see his name, I'm sure it's Coombendy, but all I can think about is like cum bending from, just a meme of, anyway, I'm getting way off track here. We've got another offer for Armani Little coming in here, so we're going to try again to maybe scam a offer out of SK Brand here. I feel like I'm Donald Trump right now. I'm asking for a small loan of $1 million for Armani Little here. Will they bite on that? No, they think that's way too much money. Oh my God. We can't even sell a player for $1 million. That's the kind of situation we're in here at Gillingham. We do have another offer coming in for Jake Turner for even less, so we're going to try to maybe get a little more. Okay, so we are able to sell off one of our backup goalkeepers here. I think it was Jake Harris was his name. Jake Turner. Jake Turner here for $550K, which means we'll probably end up with like 300 or so thousand into our budget. However, that's 300 or so thousand more than we've had in the past. We're getting an offer here for William Bess, and I don't want to have to give him up, at least not yet, right? We know that he is a very talented player. If we sell him now, we're only going to maybe get somewhere between like 2 to 3 million or 1 to 2 mil, it's looking like. But if we held on to him, let him develop for another season, if we can at least last that long, if we have to sell him off in the future for some profit, we could probably get much more. So I'm going to have to reject this offer. However, we do have another offer coming in for Armani Little. I'm not giving up on it. We're going to find a team that will give us $1 million. I mean, what if I'm just much more conservative? Wow, they still think even $975K as the initial offer is like an insult. It's like I'm spitting on them as we're shaking hands. Whatever. We'll hold on to Armani Little at least here for another match, as we do have a offer for Mr. Cumbender. Maybe we move him off as he's unhappy that I won't give him a new contract. I wonder why. You're 23 and about as good as I am at soccer as a 26-year-old fat chud. Anyway, we're going to try to negotiate an offer here. Well, they didn't want him for 600K, so I guess he can continue to check us or to help us out here, as we are stepping into a matchup against Newport County. I've got to update our squad before we walk in, though. So I think in order to continue to allow William Best to develop the fastest here, we're just going to bite the bullet and start letting him get some starts here. I understand that he's not as good as some of the other players on the team. However, he's going to end up being better than anybody on our team right now, as we do walk away with a 1-0 victory here today. So back in the positive side of the results column, as, oh boy, one of our players got hurt. Mr. Cumbender's got a new role. They're warning me I'm about to get fired. There's a lot going on here. I'll be back. So we are making another deal here. It's not for the player we thought, though, as Aaron Rowe is going to be on the move to Plymouth for $800,000. We're still looking to move off Armani Little as well, but that deal was an offer I think we couldn't refuse. We're still, as you can see, desperately trying to find a price tag that someone will take that's not just $700,000 flat. However, I think we're getting pretty close to just taking $700K and calling it a day. So with that, we have a new matchup here against Harrogate Town FC. We still have a refreshed lineup for the most part, so we don't need to worry about benching anybody today, as we will pull away 3-1 today. So a couple of positive results here as we get into the swing of things in the January side of the transfer window. Still getting a couple of offers, and I guess Bradley Dack got himself suspended, bad boy, as we will have to make some moves. I got tired of it. The next offer we got for Armani Little for $720K, I just took it. Don't even know who it's to. Don't even know where he's going. Really, I don't really care, as we will take the money that we get for him and use that to benefit our team in the future. We have a matchup here against Cheltenham Town, but we can see that he is going to Malmö. Is it Malmö with the umlaut over top? I think that's what that's called, right? Okay, so matchup against Cheltenham Town. Can we continue to stack some positive results here? That'd be really nice. We do get a draw. A draw is a draw. It's a point towards the table. However, we do want wins. I think we're still lurking around promotion range, right? I think we have to finish in the top 3 in order to be in that promotion range. Yeah, so if we can get into the top 3 here, we're basically a guaranteed promotion. However, I think if we finish in the top 8, we get to play for a playoff spot. I'm not exactly sure how it works out down the line, but as you can see, MK Dons, Walsall, and Swindon Town is ahead of us at the table. So we've really got to push here towards the end of the season if we are going to have an offer or a chance. Oh my gosh, we have injuries piling up here. And okay, so McCleary has torn his MCL and he is done probably for the rest of the season. We're going to have to make some moves here. Luckily, we do have the depth. And we have some money coming in soon as well. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on the transfer market here in a couple days, once we finally get the last transfer that we've made cleared, to see what kind of offers that we can put out for some new talent, maybe to help secure our path to promotion. All right, I'm tired of it again. It would appear that nobody is going to take a offer for Nelson Kumbeni that's more than 420K, so Arca Gdynia will be the lucky squad that gets to take him home. Good luck to you in the future, sir. Before our next matchup here, we will be looking in the transfer market to find ourselves maybe a couple of talented players. We have been on the scouting trail. It looks like that we're still not done scouting some of the guys that we were looking at before. However, we do have a couple of the free agents, right, that we can scout. I do need to make sure that he's scouting someone, otherwise I can't look at his report. Really awesome thing that FIFA does, or EAFC does. Let me get it correct so we aren't stepping on FIFA's toes or whatever. I saw that FIFA tried to turn into a publicly traded company, which is just absolutely wild to me. You're talking about an organization, right, that's supposed to be for the world, and they're trying to make profit off of it. It's just wild. Anyway, glad that it ended up not working out for them, and they had to retract that idea. I think the president of FIFA caught some heavy flack, and rightfully so. But before we get too busy into things here, we only have, it says we only have about $2 million in budget, which means that we really can't spend all that much if we wanted to like go after an actual transfer product. I do think though that we can bring in somebody from our short list here, as I think we will bring Jonathan Amelia to our squad. All in all, he's going to develop a little bit more still, and he'll be a decent player for the next 2 or 3 seasons. Depends on how long we are kind of struggling to get some money in the building here. The other consideration would be a Felix Lorenzo to really star for us in the center line. Ideally, it'd be awesome to bring in both of these guys. So let's go ahead and see if we can make something happen. All right, so I think we've got a pretty decent deal on the table here for Felix Lorenzo. You might be asking yourself, you were just talking about the other guy. What happened? Don't ask about it, all right? I might have lowballed a little too hard. Let my ball swing a little too close to the floor and they hit the shredder. So we're going to have to... we're going to have to come back to the well on that one. I feel like that one coach, if you are an American watching this, which I don't imagine that a lot of people are, I feel like soccer is probably a more popular sports category to watch over in the UK, which, anyway, if you are an American watching this, you wouldn't probably have heard about that one coach from, like, I don't know what team he coached. It was some small-time program, but he was the king of just random sayings that you've never heard. Just were hilarious every time. I'm going to have to, like, see if I can find, like, a little cut of his best quotes to put in here.
And throw away those video games. Get rid of those things. With my grandkids, I'd like to hit them with a hammer. Not the kids, the video games. Get rid of those things. Stay active. I wanted to raise my kids using a depth chart. Can you imagine that? I wanted that. Pam Green vetoed that idea. Everybody expects you to win. My wife couldn't go to church with me on Sunday, and everybody said, where is she? I said, she doesn't go out with losers. The season's a lot like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. He's like that black lab on the first day of pheasant hunting season. He was pulling at the chain. Our football team was like the kid that plays second French horn in the school band. We got to play better. His attitude's positive. He thinks he could take on hell with a squirt gun.
Why does this guy low-key look like Charlie Kirk a little bit? You're a little Kirkified there, Mark Bamba. Anyway, we do bring a new and talented center back to help take over that center line on the defensive side. We still have a young, talented prospect in William Best that we want to develop. However, this kind of takes the pressure off in the sense that we'll have some more freely available talent to come off the bench in games. So that's a positive impact to the squad. We're still probably going to be able to sign Jonathan Amelia. We'll just have to wait a couple days. I think it's like a week until we can reapproach him or something like that. We'll see how long it is. However, we do have a new matchup here today against Bromley FC. With us being just on the outside, as I think we can put some of our other players back in, unless they're exhausted. No, it looks like Roman Pacquiao is pretty tired, so he'll probably need a break today. And now that we've sold off our only other, like, center midder that's not, like, a low 60s overall, it's going to be Antwi here starting for us, which is fine. I think we're, like, not making ourselves that much worse in the long run when we consider what we're going to be able to do with the money we've brought in from selling him off. Like, I feel like we could probably take a look here in our scouting reports. Like David Watson's probably a little too expensive. I mean, Aaron Ochoa would be an interesting prospect, but I don't think we have anybody currently being scouted that we could say, yeah, like they're a good target with what the budget we've got left. I think after making that deal, we only are left with like $1.5 million or just about. It says we have $2 million, but I don't believe that. I wish I could see. I mean, it still says our budget's about $2 million, and maybe that's after we've got the deal done for Kumbeni. I just wish it was easier for me to see like exactly what kind of budget I've got, because this is like not a very specific estimate, and then it's like too specific in here. Like I can't just see what my current budget is. So yeah, I wish there was a more specific number that I could see when I'm looking at this. However, I mean, we still have $2 million. That's just not enough, really, for us to go make a move of any significance for a new center midder. We'll have to wait on that a little bit. I think that's fine, though. We've got a very youthful core at this point, so development should also be a priority rather than just kind of stuffing our problems down with more talent. It is deadline day after a draw there, and I think making some good moves at deadline day could really help us out. We're still waiting on the deal for Nelson Kumbini to go through, so I think we'll wait for that to go through before we make any other offers. So we've gotten an offer here for Shadrach Ogie, and I'm not opposed to selling him away. I think with the talent we've got in the back line right now, we can afford to make a deal for someone here. However, I'm not willing to give him up unless we're getting a very good deal. So I don't care if they feel like that was too much. He's valuable to us still, even if we're okay moving off of him. So if we're gonna do that, it better be worthwhile for us. Oh, so Nelson Kumbani will go to Port Vale instead. We accepted another transfer offer because I had felt like it was taking a little bit too long for him to end up getting sold off. But it looks like Arca Gdynia could not come to an agreement with him. Now we have the money in our pockets if we wanted to go make a deal. I will tell you, one thing that we absolutely know we need is some center attacking midfielders. I think Benchamal is doing fine. We would really love to have another true stud center attacking midfielder because Bradley Dack is old, and honestly we would love to be able to move off of him here. Like Jamaldine Jimo Aloba, we've talked about him before. Is he back from loan yet? He's on loan at West Brom. Okay, so he's from Aston Villa initially, but he's on loan at West Brom, which I guess is West Brom fallen down to League One, I guess. I haven't followed Premier League ever, really, so I just remember West Brom being in Premier League the last time I was really familiar, anyway, with the Premier League, so we still can't bring him in because he's still on loan. We know that we would love to get a player of his talent on our team. However, it's just not going to happen. Now, something else that we probably shouldn't overlook too is we could use a talented left or right midfielder as well to help our causes. What if we did something that I don't really do, which is approach a player for loan? This guy here has some great development. However, I would love a loan to buy option with this. And they want to let him go. So we'll take a 2-year loan. And I don't care about the wage split, right? I don't care that much about the wage split. We'll take, okay, so I guess we'll go with a 60-40. And they want 2.3 mil as the transfer sum with a sell-on clause. All right, how about this? How about I give you a 1.6 mil with a 3% sell-on clause? Okay, well, they just upped the price a ton. A 3.6 transfer sum? I can't do that, man. Look, here, how about this? We will give you 2 mil flat, and unfortunately, that's all we're going to be offered. Yeah, okay. Well, it doesn't work out that time. However, I still think that's not a bad plan. I just don't think we wanted to pay 2 mil. So another option maybe here is Luke Harris. We could bring him in on loan perhaps. Oh, he's actually already on loan. Okay, well, once again, getting screwed by my scouts bringing in guys that are already loaned out places, so I can't actually take a look at any of them. So if we're not necessarily dying to loan to buy every player that we see, right? So Bradley Burrows is loan listed for Aston Villa here. They want to get him out to a team that can develop him. We already have one right midfielder on the team that's loaned in. However, I think we could use him on the other side of the field, right, and develop him out there. Now, we would be interested in a loan option to buy, and I think we'll take him out on a 1 year, maybe to give ourselves the best. Okay, so they want a short term, and we are going to try to get them to take on as much of his wages as possible. Maybe we can get them to do okay. So the future transfer sum they want for him is 5 mil. I think we'll try to negotiate them down to a price point of like 4-5 here. I mean, obviously we're probably not going to be able to afford that. Did they increase the amount that they wanted for him? I mean, sure, we'll accept that price point, but I don't think we're going to pay it. We're just going to bring him on here for the purpose of being here for the rest of the season to help our team. And then let's see if there's anybody else here that we could potentially bring in on a loan to help us in the short term while we try to get our other players to develop. I think the only other thing we would consider here is a center mid. And I mean, I'm seeing a couple of decent options that if we were just bringing them in to loan, they'd be fine. Like David Watson here, I think would be perfect as just a loan player, because we could definitely not afford a loan to buy offer at this point. The other option is like a Thiago Pitarch. I'm not sure how you would say that last name. However, he's a 70 overall and he's got great potential. Probably not playing all that much at Real right now, so we could say, hey, give him to us on a loan, and we'll let him play plenty over the next like season or so. So I think we can't find any, and I'm not seeing any center midfielders that we could bring in on a transfer here. So at this point, we're going to add Thiago Pitarch, and we'll also add David Watson to our short list. Still have Jonathan Amelia there, but we can sign him at any point, right? Even if that's after the transfer window closes. But which of these guys do we want more? We know that Thiago Pitarch is more talented. We also know that it's going to be more impossible if we wanted a loan to buy him. And, okay, well, his contract is going to be up before they can recall him. So that is going to be a no-go, unfortunately, on Thiago. So David Watson, maybe, is an option. Okay, well, they don't want to loan him out. I guess he is good enough to start for him, so we're really left with just about nothing. Unfortunately, there's just not a ton of options here. We could bring in somebody arguably less talented. We could bring in like an Isaac Alamahu, but he's not any better than what we've got on our roster. If we're going to bring somebody in to play, they better play, and none of these guys are going to do that for me. Maybe if we brought in Alassane Diatta, he would play. We'd have to... He's a center defensive midfielder naturally. However, he can play center mid. I guess that's something we have to consider. Because, I mean, some of these center attacking midfielders could also play center midfielders, like Selton there. So, like an Aaron Ochoa, we could bring him in, I think, and... I'd be interested. Okay, they're not trying to loan him out. Oh, I swear this game is like so peaceful and chill up until deadline day, and that's when I find out that we've got nothing going on for us. So once again, we're gonna have to try to hit the pivot here and find something. We've got to bring in a center midfielder. I think we don't have a chance to compete at the end of this season unless we do so here. I mean, James Scanlon, if I remember correctly, he's a pretty decent prospect for us. We just don't know enough about him to make a decent offer. James McConnell from Liverpool is a interesting prospect here to maybe just have as a loaned player. We could maybe also go after a Lewis Orford from West Ham. Yeah, I think the only options that makes sense are these two, James McConnell and Lewis Orford. Now, Lewis Orford, we could theoretically bring in and develop. We could spend $1 million to bring him in and then spend the rest on his contract. I don't necessarily like that idea as much as maybe just trying to loan James McConnell, and he is available to be approached for a loan. Do we want a loan to buy? Yes. However, I'm sure that the loan to buy price will be incredibly high. However, they are willing to let him go out on a 1 or 2 year, or that his contract is long enough that he can go out on any of these. I think we try to offer them a 1 year and see what happens. They'll only take a short term. Will they go for a 2 year? Okay, so they will let him go out on a 2-year. And how about you take most of his contract? How about you take most of his contract? Okay, well, never mind. They are pissed that we wanted them to be holding most of the money for him. God, can we get anything going for us? So I guess it's going to have to be that we go after the other prospect that we had theorized about. Might be easier if we go for a loan-to-buy situation on him. They might ask for less. And Lewis Orford is able to be loaned out. I think we would like to take him out on a 1-year. They want him on a 2-year. Fine, we'll take him for 2 years. And we'd like for you guys to hold 80% of his wage. Okay, how about you guys take 30% of his wage? Fine, you guys can hold 40%. What? They offered 40%? Okay, now we're just being ridiculous. I've never had this much of an issue splitting wages in loans before. I've never had a squad reject to hold on to so much of a player's money. All right, so the last possible option is Alassane Diatta here, and we will approach to loan. I mean, the irritation factor is high because I think we could have gotten a much better deal on one of the other players that we were going after. But, you know, it is what it is. We'll offer a 1-year loan. They want to take him out on a short term. How about we propose 2 years? No, they really only want a short term. Well, rats. So how about you guys hold 30% of his wages? Let's be really willing to hold the wages. How about we do 50-50? So his value should be fairly low. So we'll offer like, what, 1.2, I think, to start. And, okay, they want 1.5 with a 5% transfer. Look, how about we do this? Obviously, I think the plan is that we will transfer him later. So I will do that if we only have to give you like 2%. Okay. How about this? I will give you 1,600, and once again, I only want you to have 2%. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. You guys tell me in the comments, am I like nitpicking so hard that it's just not worth it? But I didn't want to have to give up 5% of a future transfer for him because we're in a situation right now where that money is huge. And we're not really going to be able to sell him off for a ton either. So, unfortunately, that was our last option to bring in a center midfielder before the transfer window closes. Do bring in Bradley Burrows for 6 months. However, it's not like we will be able to keep him with the kind of money that we would have to give Aston Villa to keep him on our squad. I mean, with 2 hours left in the window, I don't really think there's anything that we can do. Yeah, so unfortunately, the deadline is going to pass without us really being able to bring in what we really wanted. We loan in a very talented young player. However, we'll still have to keep our eyes peeled for any talented free agents because I think we could still definitely use as many as possible. As you can see, Bradley Burrows quickly becomes one of the best players on our team down here. And we are still waiting on some of our younger talent to develop, right? Elliot Nevitt here that we've transferred, loaned out, probably should be recalled and sold off if I'm being honest. But some of these younger guys down here are still trying to develop. And then in our academy right now, I mean, we don't really have anybody right now that is able to be called up as set except for Shuto Saito. And he's looking like somebody I would love to be able to bring up here to the top squad sooner than later. Problem really is that we don't have a role for him right now. Between Jeremar Kroos and Benchamal, I mean, we've got 2 great strikers that we're kind of using Benchamal right now, Gilson Benchamal right now as a center attacking midfielder, which, you know, long term is probably not what he wants to play. If the potential is up there for him and he's way better, we should probably allow him to come up into the top squad and start getting games so he can develop. But we will continue to wait and bide our time as we have a new updated youth scouting report that we'll be able to take a look at. Okay, so a couple of interesting options here, and Aichi Furukawa and Kenji Nakayama. Now, usually I wouldn't take any player under 90 potential. However, right, we're in a position where we need as many players of a kind as we can find. All right, so as we can see before we head into our next matchup, Bradley Burrows will slide in there at right midfield. The team that loaned us Mr. Smith here might be upset that he's ending up off the bench. However, if they want to recall him, go ahead. He's in his late 20s. He's not going to develop any more than what he is right now. So I'd much rather have a player that will get better with our team here as we head into our next matchup. And Tranmere Rovers will get the better of us today, unfortunately. So still struggling to put consistent results together, which is definitely not where we want to be. However, I did see a couple of teams in the top end of the table take a loss as well today. So we're 6th in the table. We really have to find more consistency in order to move up. Right now in the promotion playoff range, I mean, it is a very tight race. So every matchup is going to count. I mean, MK Dons has definitely separated themselves as one of the best teams in the EFL League 2 here. So we know that we're not necessarily bound to win against them. However, we really need to start winning against teams that we should be beating, like Crew Alexandra. All right, so we are taking on Crew Alexandra today. We've got basically all of the starters for our team back in the lineup. Can we continue, or can we, I think, get back on track more than anything as we pull out another draw today? A draw is better than a loss. However, we need to get wins to stay competitive here. Our performance level is dropping. I'm keeping a very close eye in the top right corner of my screen, but no time to worry about it too much here, as in 2 days, we already have another match. Okay, so besides us blowing it during the transfer deadline day, we do manage to eventually bring in Jonathan Amelia here, and he will help us out on the back line, once again continuing to develop things back there. And that'll give us the ability to rest Roman Pacquiao this game, and then we've got a couple of other guys who are a little bit gassed before our next matchup. So we'll have to rotate things around for our squad and make sure everybody's as fresh as possible. But it would still appear that we need to find some more depth at some point, which obviously with a budget this tight, we're really relying on our youth academy to do some of that with us. We just have to wait for the youth talent to develop. So we've got a big matchup here against Chesterfield, I believe, and we will pull out a 2-1 victory today. So 3 points towards the table. If we looked at everything else really quickly, I wish I had the ability to choose when to advance from that screen. We do move up the table here to 5th. So every win, as you are able to see, is going to be critical to staying in the top end of the table. All right, so we are kind of in desperate need of some help at center mid. So we have taken a look at some of the free agents that we haven't scouted, and these three right here are all pretty talented. They've got potentials in the high 80s, and Pedro Vite here has a max potential in the 90s. I have full faith that this guy is going to reject us. Yes. So that leaves us with Afrodis Imzuran and Mahmoud Saber. I feel like we've signed Mahmoud Saber before. However, Afrodis Imzuran looks pretty much better in every athletic category. So let's see. Okay, so he's not willing to come and join us. How about Mahmoud Saber? Okay. Third strikes the charm, right? As we will try to get him in on a deal. Let's see if he's willing to be a rotation. He wants to be crucial. All right, so we will bring in Mahmoud Saber, which who we think we brought in Swindon Town FC, as he is going to be a 71 overall. He is like slow. I mean, it's actually not that slow compared to some of our other players on the roll. Well, I mean, compared to Gilson Benchamal, he is very slow. However, I still think he's got room to develop, and I feel like that's kind of a huge win for us. All things considered, we know his max potential is 71 to 75, so he's probably maxed out, but that's a player that will come in and be a instant starter for us and help really shore up things as far as depth at that center mid position. So we can slot him in right here for this game and feel pretty good about that, as I might be tempted to look here for maybe another free agent. We still have some money left to spare, and we can't really afford to go out and go get a super expensive transfer, right? So this player search feature here is another thing that I've learned to use, as we'll take a look at some center midfielders and see what we can find, or center attacking mids. So Brian Gutierrez looks very good. I have no doubt he'll reject us on a contract. Same thing here with Mauricio. Yep, that last name, not going to try that and make myself look stupid. We know Gilberto Mora has no interest in signing with us either, so he will remain a free agent. However, there is one more I think is interesting enough. I think Ermin Mamic? Or do we do Dariush Murdad? I mean, Dariush Murdad looks a little bit better athletically at his worst. However, Ermin Mamic looks a little bit better. I think we go for Dariush Murdad. And we'll take a look here at our short list again. So we've got 3 players. So Brian Gutierrez is the first we'll try, and yeah, he's not willing to come here. How about Mauricio, also not willing to join us? How about Dariush Murdad? I had a feeling, usually the third time's the charm, right? They say it comes in threes. Well, the talent coming to our team comes in threes. As you can see, Mahmoud Saber, despite just joining the team, has earned himself a jersey spot on the wall. So we have no idea how much to offer him here, so we're just going to go with like 5,000 and 50K. Hopefully we're not like super overpaying for him, but I think he's got a decent amount of talent. He looks pretty decent, as we'll see what overall he is. He's a 67 overall. Okay, so I think that's a really good deal for us. We'll be able to throw him right into the starting lineup there, and he's only 21 years old. I'll be interested to see. There's another player here, Royston Shoop, who I think we also brought in at one point during Swindon Town FC, that I think I'm also going to make a deal for here. If we bring in him and the other center attacking midfielder, right, then Bradley Deck, I think, becomes fully expendable for us, and we can add some more money into our pockets here. Okay, he wants to be important. That's fine. He can be important for us. And we'll give him a 4-year deal. And we will bring in yet another, I think, talented center attacking midfielder to go along with what we just brought in through free agency, as he is a 67 overall. So between him and Murdad, we've got 2 very talented young center attacking midfielders that hopefully we can develop just a little bit. Even if they don't necessarily have the highest talent ceiling, they'll still be better floor talent than what we've got right now. So as you can see, lineup looking much different now with a couple of new additions to the team. How will this lineup perform in their first match together? Might be a little bit rough, but we still do get a win. They need some time to maybe mesh together before we start rattling off huge wins. And we are 4th in the league table now before our next matchup here in 6 days. All right, so 6 days have passed. It's time for a matchup against Barrow. We're towards the bottom of the league table, so hopefully our lineup can come out and play strong today. However, I think we do need to adjust things to get our best of the best out there. All right, so we've got our lineup fixed up here before our next match. Maybe we give Ogie a match off. I mean, he's still in the green. He's fine as far as his stamina is concerned, but we have the depth that we can just say, look, we've got someone of similar talent that we can slide in there for a match to give you a chance to catch your breath, and I think that's what we'll end up doing here. All right, how will we do against Barrow? It's going to be a draw today. I mean, I really think what needs to happen is the talent on our backline, aka William Best, needs to start developing and not being a 62 overall, because otherwise I'm making myself look stupid every time I go out there with things the way they are, because he's not developing right now, despite the fact that we thought he was going to be one of our best young prospects. All right, next matchup has arrived. Can we continue to stay positive, get wins or draws? I mean, another 2-2 draw here today is fine. I mean, wins are what I want, but as long as we're not losing and really damaging ourselves, that's the most important thing. I mean, right now it's March 14th, which I think is like 8 days or so before I got fired from Swindon Town FC, and we're still safe. So I think things are looking good. Can't like count our chickens before we hatch or anything like that, but As far as the lineup's concerned, we don't really want to make any adjustments, right? We still got players who are all in great form. We just need to continue to try to put the results together. Up against Cambridge today, can we come out on top? We do indeed manage to put up 2 goals to their 1 today, so that will help us in the league table. All right, so we have a matchup, a rematch against Swindon Town, and as you can see, we've got a pretty exhausted lineup out there, so we have to throw out some backups. So we actually do manage to get a 1-0 victory here against Swindon Town. Take that, pal. How about those apples? And we will continue to make our progress up the table as we are now 2nd in the league. All right, so with the influx of talent that we've gotten, we can go ahead and move off of some of the older talent that has capped out and we won't really be using much, like Connor Masterson here. He's capped out at 64 overall. He's 27. It's time for us to move on, and we will take $850,000 to do so. All right, it is Bristol Rovers time to meet our squad and see if we can't make some impact here. I mean, Bristol Rovers is at the bottom of the table, yet they continue to beat us every time we play. I don't understand how that works, but that hurts as far as the league table is concerned. We're going to try to bounce back after a loss like that. So we've got a new chaos effect, if you want to call it that, as dodgy food has been served. And, oh boy, a lot of our team is feeling unwell. And that's on top of the 9 players on our squad on international duty. Oh my good God. This is insanity. Our entire team, except for 3 of our starting 11, are out on international duty. And to go along with that here, it looks like Alfonso Lorenzo ate some of that bad food, as did Bradley Burrows. So, yeah, this is going to be a very, very tough game. I mean, we should expect that we're probably going to lose this match. So, this is the squad. Oh, and it's not even the squad because we're not all out there. Look at the amount of players that are going to be missing. That is 9 players on international duty and like another 2, it looks like, that are sick. I love it. I mean, it's a good thing that this is the only probably the only match that we'll play in this period, but I expect bad things to happen here against Crawley Town. And somehow, despite everything that we had to do, we still managed to draw in that match. All right, praise be here for this matchup against Walsall. We'll actually have a mostly normal starting 11 out there. We still have a couple players recovering and a couple players tired, so that's fine. But we're going to see if we can pull out a win today. No, we'll end up drawing. Walsall is 3rd in the table, so a draw against them isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, as we do manage to hold on to that 2nd spot as far as promotion is concerned. All right, next matchup against Accrington, who's I think like dead last in the table. They're 24th right now, so it should be no problem for us, and it is indeed a 3-0 victory for us. Really pushing through the end of this season at this point, right? We're just trying to keep ourselves on pace to stay in promotion range, and we don't need to do a lot, I think, to keep our team in good shape for that. All right, next matchup against Salford City, and we do pull off another victory here today. So we are keeping up the hot results here. Are we going to take over the top of the table? I don't think so. I'm not sure how many matches are left, but we are 8 points behind. MK Dons has definitely done a great job getting themselves in position to move up the table, but I still think we can stay in promotion range for sure. All right, we are back to full strength for our next matchup against Grimsby Town. Once again, just keep piling on the good results, keep ourselves in the top 3 of the table, don't worry about what anybody else is doing, and focus on moving up into the EFL League One. Can we do it in Season 1? That would be very impressive, I think. There's a youth tournament that we'll have to get through here soon, so I'm going to sim that before we hop into our next... I'm going to play that before we hop into our next matchup here against Barnet. Okay, so looking at our youth squad right now, we've brought in a couple of new faces. Laurent Valle here. It looks like a very talented center midfield prospect. We're going to let him develop a little bit to see what his true potential looks like. However, I think we know enough about Shuto Saito at this point to go ahead and promote him to the senior squad, and then we're going to try to loan him out and see if we can't get him to develop some. These 3 players are next in line to be sent up. However, we're still waiting to see what their true potential range is. So once again, I'm going to hop in and play this youth tournament, and then we will see what's going on here in our next match. Alrighty, youth tournament complete, which means that we can hop in here to our next matchup. I believe this is against Barnett. Can we come out on top? Barnett is going to get the better of us today, so that's not the result we were hoping to have here. All right, so we are here at the beginning of May, which is farther than we made it last time, so already this is a great success. And we have a matchup against Shrewsbury. They're currently sitting 5th in the youth tournament, or I see the youth tournament starts, so that interrupts my thinking there. As you can see, that Bradley Burrows' loan is expiring soon, and we would love to keep him on board. However, there is no way that we can settle the buy option. So we cannot afford to keep him on right now, so we'll have to probably bid him goodbye here at the end of the season. We won't worry about that for right now, though. We're going to play this next matchup against Gillingham before hopping into the youth tournament. And we do pull off a 2-1 victory here today without our main striker, as he picked up a red card in our last match. So before we hop in here to the youth tournament, we are still sitting 2nd in the table, as we will have a matchup against MK Dons, the top team in the table next. Okay, so it looks like, was it Alfonso Lorenzo, the team, or the guy that we just brought in, is feeling a little homesick. We have an option. We can add his favorite food to the market, or we can think of something. No, I'm going to help him settle. We'll put up a little buffet for him, a little home-cooked. I think he's Colombian, right? Is that? What flag is that? Okay, so he's from Paraguay. Took me a while to find the flag there. I wish there was a section that literally told you what country that is. However, he is from Paraguay, so we'll have some Paraguayan cuisine. Who doesn't love some cultured cuisine on the buffet, right? So we'll give him a little taste of home here before our next matchup, as he is very happy with that. In fact, so happy with it, it makes him a little bit complacent. Maybe I gotta bark at him a little bit. You're a little too happy at home now. Okay, so MK Dons is the matchup, and unfortunately, this is a matchup we're coming into pretty tired. So a lot of our team will have to sit, but we do take down MK Dons. We take them down to 2-0 score, and with that, I think we're just about nearing the end of the season. I'm not sure what that'll mean for our promotion or not. All right, so we will get to see who the player of the season is. We won't stick around for the ceremony, but it will go to Cambridge's Apere, and we'll still be 50 days away from the end of the season. I don't know if we can expect that we've moved up or not, as, yep, they're telling us to check the transfer market. We can't bring Bradley Burrows in because we don't have the money to, unfortunately. We have an updated scouting report, and I think these two guys, Mehdi Tibalt and Patrick Tanguy, might be Tanguy, I don't know how you say it. But either way, they'll be joining the youth program here. And in fact, let's check on the youth academy, see if we've closed in on knowing any of our older guys' potentials a little bit more. Kenji Nakayama is looking to be not that great. However, like I said, right now we're accepting anything over an 80 overall. And right now we've got a squad full of that. Laurent Lavie, or Valley, is getting better quickly. Still don't really know much about his potential yet. And Ben Hughes, we're still waiting on his potential. Well, actually, we know more about his potential now. We might bring him to the squad because we know that he'll be pretty decent, and we can go ahead and send him out to develop. And it's the same thing here, I think, with Dominic Hunter. We'll know he'll be a 79 to an 85 overall, so he's earned himself a promotion. Maybe even the same with Jacob right here. So all 3 of those guys will join our team, and we'll send them out on loan to start developing for a better team. So we'll come down here, we'll add them to the loan list, because we know that it's just going to be a lot quicker for them to develop if we do it that way. Okay, so as we're trying to sim to the end of the season, we have another homesick player here. Take some time off. I mean, it's the end of the season. We're not playing any matches, so if you're going to take some time off, this is the perfect time for you to do it, as we do have a couple of loan offers that we've accepted for our young talent here, so they'll be shipping off here to start next season. And we do have one more update from our scout out in France before the end of the season. And what I want to do before we even end the season, I want to make sure that I send him back out to get us some more talent, because we're going to need a goalkeeper prospect. So let's go ahead and find me a star goalkeeper in Spain, please. And that will be his job to start next season. So, okay, there was a training injury on the last day of the season, so they will not be available until next year. But we finished second in the EFL League 2. We get to the second round of the FA Cup, get exited in the first round of the EFL Cup, the second round of the Virtu Trophy, and we make the group stage. So I think we should be promoted, right? We're in the promotion range, so we should end up in League 2 next season, right? The board is delighted with our performance this season, and they are happy for us to come back next season. So here you can see we have been promoted to EFL League 1. I will be incredibly excited to see what we are able to get up to next season. We have an increased transfer budget of $5 million to start this year, which isn't a lot, but compared to what we started with, it's a ton. So I will hope that we can get off to a great start and make some noise in the League One next season and next episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to leave a like down below, comment, and subscribe so our channel can continue to reach more people. I understand this isn't like my normal kind of content with like my football and basketball videos. This one's a little bit more laid back and chill, but that's just kind of the nature of this game. I would love to be able to find some more opportunities to actually hop in and play the game, but I think that'll come later when our team is more successful in competing for more meaningful things. So with that being said, I will hope to see you in the next episode here very, very soon. Take care.